I'm a huge fan of movies like Birdman and movies like 1917. I love those single one-take shots. And for me, it's not a gimmick. For me, it's that you can tell a lot with the energy of the camera, but also with the journey, take the audience right into that journey of one thing happening after another. Kind of like video games when one action chains after the other. So this is an example of an insane action sequences that I recently did, by the way. And this is like, so you had the helicopter taken off, we have our SWAT guys getting ready to go, and you can see here, I'm scrolling down my sequencer just to show you guys how crazy my sequencer file can be. And then he's going to beat the crap out of these SWAT guys because he's just a badass. But you can see here when I'm doing the camera, I'm just really dancing with the character and the camera. And it's kind of like a ballet, you know, the way I'm moving the camera around to really tell the story, show the environment, show the chaos that's happening, but always focus on our guy. And again, you know, I'm doing this all in real time. I've got real-time particle fires. I've got heavy geometry moving around, motion blur, and all sorts of stuff going on. And also, if you look carefully here, let me just move over, but you know, we've got some crazy environments going on here as well. We've got a big, massive environment. So I'll show you around here. Well, there. Here we go. So we move over here. We zoom in. We go through the fire. And again, this is another way of how I block my shots out. I tend to animate the shot, you know, with the camera looking down, like from a top down, and then I'll go in and find my shots. So a lot of this was the scene playing over and over again as I was trying to find the shots, kind of like what a camera guy would do when he's trying to catch the action, right? And that's great because the fact that I can do all that in real time feels like I'm being on a virtual set, which is great. The other thing I want to also mention is I've mentioned a lot about how I'm able to do a lot in lit mode, where particles, heavy geometry, tons of mocap, hordes of SWAT guys beating this guy up and fighting, and all of that stuff is cool because I have the power of the GPU. But just because we have it doesn't mean we should abuse it, right? This is kind of like a campaign for GPUs, don't abuse a GPU. One of the sequences we had in the film was there's an interior shot, and there's like, you know, kind of like Black Hawk Down, the helicopter's spinning out of control, and you know, originally I had the helicopter in the environment and I had all the environment spinning around, but I realized I wasn't really getting true, you know, like 60 frames per second. It was really dropping frames, and eventually, you know, you're getting crashes and so on. And I realized, well, do I need the environment? And it kind of made me think about the old school techniques of making movies, you know, looking at the front or rear projection. And I'm like, well, why don't I just like render out the 3D camera moving around the environment and then project that using the media player in Unreal and the PNGs and play that back onto the cards. No one's gonna know like if it's 3D or not, and it actually worked. You can see the shot there. You know, the camera's frenetic. You got the background, and we made the geometry and the shader having an emissive shader, so you get all this emissive light coming through the window because the shader and the texture is emitting light, and that's a great technique because it doesn't feel flat. It really works, and you know what? I was getting more than 60 frames per second, and I really felt like I can find my shot. I can really create that handheld vibe and really feel like I can focus on just the things I need to animate. So that's another thing I always try to push is smart approaches. You know, try to work within your means in terms of trying to keep the frame rate at a consistent level, because as a filmmaker, you don't want any lag in your latency. You kind of want like real time, yeah, so that you can really find your performances and the little nuances in your performance and the action, which is what a director's always asking for in live action, no different to animation. Here's another idea, give you an idea on how I put shots together. So once we have all our characters in, we have our motion capture in, I position the scene camera, and then I'll go in and select my shot, and then this is my shot list. So we use Trello for my shot list. And then what I'll do is we'll just select the mocap that we captured. You can see here in the library, it's all our mocap that was being processed. And we then assign it in sequencer onto our character here. Retarget, obviously, we have to retarget to the right character. So all of the data that comes from Xsens does not get processed and retargeted onto our characters. It just gets processed and retargeted on a epic skeleton and a basic vanilla mannequin. All our characters are built on the epic skeleton, and then therefore I can then later on reuse that mocap onto several different characters. Whereas if we did it on a specific character, it would be a bit tricky to try and, something will mess up. So there you go here. So there you go here. So we'll position our character right here, and then we can go in and, control things like the face. And this is a pipeline feature that Andrea created, basically to allow me to control the amount of blinks I can have in the character, because one of my pet peeves last year was we did facial capture on the iPhone, but the blinks were captured and I wanted to change it and I couldn't. So with this, I can now do all of this in real time. And again, I'm working with the lit mode, by the way, not in unlit mode. And this thanks to the power of the GPU. I always have these kind of like 4 things I always stand by, which is always keep learning. Don't be afraid to try new technology. You never know where it could take you. Be brave and bold. I mean, you know, it's very ballsy to make a video game at the same time as a movie. But if you've got the right team behind you, you have the right drive, and you really figure out what it is you want to do. You know, we're not making The Last of Us or Death Stranding. We're making a straight up arcade shooter, right? That's what we're doing. So if you know your limits and focus on quality, you can really achieve great things. And most of all, the most important thing is never give up. Filmmaking is a constant battle, and so you should never give up.